Hey, good morning, everybody. It's colder than I thought today, but we went on long walks, so I'm not cold anymore. Just my face is frozen. So, covering those two trials today, the Border Patrol serial killer and the other Fort Worth police officer that is allegedly alleged to have murdered a black 28-year-old female in her home while she was playing video games. What? I know. Stay tuned. Good morning, everybody. Crafting Journey here, that Journey Chick on Instagram, and on my second YouTube channel, I am known as The Leftovers. Although I will admit I have not put up a video on that channel in a week or so. I know. I have been incredibly lazy lately. What is going on with this hat? It just, okay. It's supposed to be a slouchy, I guess. Anyway, how are you guys today? I'm so glad to have you for another episode of Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I bring you updates on live trials that are occurring on the Law and Crime Network, Court TV, and various other channels on YouTube. So yesterday, here was my practice. I got the watercolors out, and I was practicing this sort of a Christmas wreath type thing that I'm going to put on some Christmas cards that I'm going to send to members and Patreons. If you are a member or a Patreon and would like to get one of these, please send me your address because I'm terrible at finding addresses. Anyway, send me your address. I'll get one out to you. So here is some of the finished products. I haven't finished totally, but I got some of them done. Yeah, I got 3 of them done. So here they are, finished. I don't know if you can see them. Anyway, I got 3 done. And I'm working on some more. I put some with the little berries in the middle there. Anyway, holly berries. Is that what they're called? I don't know. Mistletoe, holly, fa la 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 la, Christmas. Anyway, all right, let's get our paints juicy. We got to get them juicy. Yes, we do. Okay. So, good show for you today because first I'm going to update you on the Border Patrol serial killer trial. Interesting day. Which one do I want to use? Maybe this one. Okay. Interesting day yesterday. All day, like all day. It felt like all day. The first part of the day that we had testimony from a few of the crime scene investigators where they found casings at the different crime scenes. At one crime scene, the investigating officer found a metal pipe, cell phone, purse, various items at these different places. Such a shame. And lots of shell casings. So what I'm doing now is I'm just painting leaves. I am painting the leaves. And the one poor investigator, he just had this, he was so nervous. And he really knew what he was talking about, but he was just so nervous. I felt so bad for him. And he was stuttering. Poor thing. And sometimes the defense attorney would kind of have to help him out, because he was stuttering so bad. I really, really felt awful for him. But in any case, so that we had a lot of that kind of testimony. And of course, every time this poor young attorney would try to enter something into evidence, the defense attorney would object and say, they got to go through the chain of custody and blah, blah, blah. So all of those objections were overruled by the judge, and the evidence was entered into, the exhibits were entered into evidence. So for the jury to consider during their deliberations. Then they put on the medical examiner, who was this lovely woman. She was very Southern, really, very Southern, very Texas. I loved her. So she is showing one of the autopsy photos, and while she's showing this photo, a male juror passes out. And you see, they don't show him because they don't show the jurors, but you see her stop, and she looks over, and she looks at the judge, and she's like, and finally she reaches out, she whispers something to the judge, like, "Can I go help?" And he's like, yeah, go help. So she actually examines the juror and makes sure that he's okay. And then they decide to excuse this juror and replace him with an alternate. So, a male juror. So at that point, it was like almost lunchtime. So the judge just let the jury go to lunch and sort of unwind from this interesting development. I mean, and after that, whenever the medical examiner was getting ready to talk about a photo, she would say, "I'm getting ready to put up a graphic photo, and this might be upsetting to some," and she was just being really, really careful, because we forget, people that are not in the business forget, that these can be very upsetting to people that have never seen anything like it. And yeah, so she testified that all of the women had some sort of, drugs, heroin, cocaine, Xanax. They had all kinds of stuff in their systems. And they were all killed by a large caliber weapon in the head, shot in the head. All died of multiple gunshot wounds, or a gunshot wound. In some cases, it was only one gunshot. So sad for these women. So sad. Nobody deserves to be killed. I don't care what you're doing as a profession. No one deserves that. Yeah, very. So that was the day in the Border Patrol serial killing trial. Then we have the trial of Aaron Dean. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, his name is Aaron Dean. I want to make sure I had the name right. So, opening statements. So I went over the prosecution's opening statement yesterday, but I did not go over the defense. Originally, the defense had said they were going to waive their opening. Sometimes the defense can say, I want to waive the opening right now, and then I'll give my opening at the beginning of our case in chief. Well, then he changed his mind. He's like, no, I'm going to go ahead and do it now. And one thing he pointed out during his opening is this was not a call for a welfare check. And one of the things that had been the media that's been covering this has kept all along saying this was in response to a welfare check. And he was quite adamant. He's like, this was not a welfare check. This was a call to a non-emergency line of an open door. And he goes, whenever the police, they have a little playbook, when the police get a call about an open door, they have to treat it as a silent alarm. So they are not allowed to park in front of the residence because, they don't know who's there. They need to check the residence. So they responded to this house as a silent alarm. And one of the first things you do after you park down the street is you go around the perimeter of the vehicle or the perimeter of the house to, see, basically case it out, see what you can see. And it was during their going around this house that they saw the open door, that they saw, this female in the window with a gun. And the video, they haven't shown the video to the jury yet, but this officer saw her with a gun. and she was bringing the gun up when he shot her. So, yeah. So that was his opening. And that he was following police procedure. That's his opening. So I'm sure we're going to hear from experts that are going to tell us that is not the police procedure, but we'll see. I'm curious to see the footage. I'm sure it's going to be dark and hard to see and open for interpretation. So a couple of things I found out was the jury in this case is all white. This was a black officer, this was a white officer who shot a 28-year-old black female in her home. No blacks on the jury. The other thing I found out is they only did half a day of court yesterday because they were all going to the defense attorney's funeral. The lead defense attorney, his name was Jim Lane, well known in Fort Worth area, been practicing there for decades. Well, right before Thanksgiving, he was in the courthouse and he fell backwards and hit his head and was hospitalized and never recovered. They ended up putting him in hospice and he passed away from a head injury that he got in the courthouse. Now he was 78 years old. So they have a whole defense team. They thought the trial would be delayed because of this. Judge says, nope, we're going a half a day on Monday. We'll all go to the funeral. Then we'll come back and we'll do the trial. But so they had the opening statements. But then before they went, before they broke for the day to go to this funeral, they had a little boy, Zion Carr, take the stand. And I'm telling you, he was the most adorable child. Oh my God. But I was very disturbed by the fact that they had him on camera. You should never show a juvenile on YouTube on camera. I would not do that. And if they're under 14, 15 years old, don't put them on camera on YouTube. You just shouldn't do that. But they did. I guess nobody objected. The family wasn't objected. Now, the family had put him in a suit and tie. He looked dapper. He was so adorable, but so nervous. He's sitting in his chair like this, but he's got his little crisp white shirt and tie on, and he's ready to go. Jacket. He looked spiffy. And bless his heart. He's now 11. At the time of this event, the shooting, he was 8 years old. And the prosecutor was very good with him. So was the defense attorney. They were both very, very good with him. The prosecutor kind of warmed him up and say, hey, who's your favorite? Do you have a favorite athlete? Or do you love basketball? Who's your favorite star? What's your favorite subject in school? And why do you like that subject? Get him kind of to calm down. So, and he had like a little mic, little microphone right here. It was so cute. Anyway, but very good testimony. Very good. We'll get to it. Anyway, so he first testified that, his aunt had come to live with them because his mom couldn't take care of him right then because she was sick. Now, I don't know what was wrong with his mom. But so he was living with his granny, and his sister came, his aunt, and I have her name now. It's Tatiana. The reason I couldn't pronounce it yesterday is because I couldn't read my own handwriting. So when I saw it in print, I'm like, how do I not know? Of course I can pronounce that. So it's Tatiana with an A in front of it. Apparently all the sisters in this house had A names. Anyway, so Tatiana, 28 years old, had come to live with them to help raise him because Granny was in the hospital with a heart condition. And this little boy said that Granny passed away 3 months after his Aunt Tay. He called her Aunt Tay, Tatiana. So he said he and Aunt Tay taught him how to mow the lawn, how to cook hamburgers. And so the prosecutor was really, he was like, how do you cook those hamburgers? So he goes through, he's like, you just take them out of the freezer and you put them on a pan or you put them in the oven. What you don't do is you put them in the oven and forget about them while you're playing video games. Now, I can totally relate. I've forgotten a few things while playing video games. It's a rabbit hole. But that's what happened. They go to play their video games, and the prosecutor's like, well, who cooked the hamburgers this night? I did. Okay. I cooked them. I put them in the oven. He says, but, then they went to play video games, forgot about the hamburgers until they started seeing smoke coming out of the oven. So then they go and they rush into the kitchen. They open the oven door, smoke's coming out. He's like, we're like, doing this. So they open the screen door and they open the doors to ventilate the house and get the smoke out. And then they went back to playing video games and forgot about the open door. Okay. So they're in her bedroom and she is playing on a PS4 in front of a television while he is next to her in his underwear. He's got the covers up and he's playing on his Nintendo Switch. This kind of thing here, like I have right here. And the prosecutor asked him to explain the Switch and how it works, and it was very cute. So he's like, were you playing on the TV or were you playing the handheld one? He's like, oh no, I was using the handheld one. So, and, Auntie Tay she was on the TV on the PS4 and she was playing something called, something Royale. She liked Apex Legends and something Royale, but she was playing something Royale. Not familiar with these games. The child said they were shooter games. I don't do shooter games. I don't really care for them. So, she's playing, she gets her friends into a chat on Messenger, and the prosecutor's like, well, how do you do that? And he explains, oh, well, this is how you do it. You get on Messenger and, it's so cute. And you chat while you're playing the video games because the friends weren't there in the room. They were just on the Messenger. So, but here's the interesting part. He's playing on his Switch when his sister hears a noise. He never heard any noise, but his sister heard a noise. She gets up to go check out what this noise is. He's still playing on his Switch. He says, I didn't look up because I was playing my Switch. But he can describe that she went to her purse, pulled out a gun, had it by her side, never brought it up. And I'm thinking, how do you know all this if you didn't look up while you were playing your video game? But this is what for the jury to decide. Apparently, we're going to see videotape of an interview that he gave to a female that's specially trained to interview children right after the incident, where he said she did raise her gun. But he was very adamant yesterday on the stand that he could not remember this interview. I don't remember every defense question that he was asked about that interview. I don't remember. And he got upset. He's like, come on, I don't remember. It's been 3 years. I was 8 years old. I don't remember this interview. Finally, the judge calls the defense attorney, all the attorneys sidebar, and I don't know what he said to them, but you could see that the kid was getting upset because he kept telling the guy, I don't remember, and he kept questioning him about this interview, and he's like, I told you, I don't remember. So I felt bad for the kid. But anyway, he stuck to his story. I don't remember. In my memory is that she did not raise that gun. And then the next thing he knows, he said he did not hear a gunshot. He just saw her approaching the window, and next thing he knows, she's on the floor and she's crying and shaking. Then the next he remembers is police coming in, taking him out of the room, putting him into the back of the vehicle. But on their way out of the house, he said he was questioned, was it one officer that took you to the vehicle or was it two officers? And he said it was both officers. He said we were walking through the house, and as we got towards the kitchen, the female officer said to the male officer, the shooter, you need to go back and check on her to see if she's still alive. And then the female officer took him and put him in the back of his car. The car. Anyway, the kid did great on the stand. But, you know, two things I felt very inappropriate to put a camera on this kid. You just don't do that. Law and crime, shame on you. You know better. You shouldn't have done it. And to be fair, I don't know. Usually it's only one media outlet that gets the feed, and then everybody else plugs into that feed. So it could have been Court TV's cameras. It could have been Law and Crime's cameras. I don't know who cameras were in there. But it was a very poor decision, I believe, to show that kid on TV. I just don't agree with that. You just don't do it. I don't put juveniles in my videos. Nobody does. YouTube frowns on it, and the fact that they did it was just in really, really poor taste. And then the defense attorney to hammer this, trying to hammer this kid, you know, over something he clearly didn't remember. And I'm sure the judge had told him to move on. Just move on. And because when he came back, the defense attorney says, so what I hear you saying is you don't remember this interview. Well, no, I've just told you that 12 times. Well, you didn't say that, but, you know, the kid was very, very polite, very well-mannered, you know, just, he did say that after this, he sat in the back of the police car for a little while. Then another officer came and gave him a shirt, because he was cold, and he said, I was confused. I didn't know what was going on. He says, I thought I was dreaming. I didn't know what was going on. He said, and then I fell asleep in the back of the car. When I woke up, I was at this foster care place, which was actually this place set up where they do these children's interviews, and he stayed there, did the interview, and then stayed there till his mother came and got him. His sick mother came and got him. Very, very sad. But to my mind, I'm thinking, how much has this child heard from his aunties and uncles and everybody about what they think occurred, and how much has that influenced what he remembers? I don't know. Like, she kept the gun at her side. You don't know that. You were playing your Switch. You said you didn't look up. Anyway. Here's what I think. I think he didn't hear. He was playing his game. He didn't hear any noise outside. He said he didn't hear the officers out there. He never heard the officer say, put your hands up. He never heard any of them. All he knows is she walked towards the window, and then the next thing he knows, she's on the ground crying and shaking. That's what he knows. I think he was playing his game when she got up to see what the noise was. Next thing he knows, he looks and she's on the floor. I think that's what happened. About the gun, I don't know how much of that is truly his memory and how much he has heard people talking. I don't know. So, poor kid. So that is what happened. She was playing the PS4. He was playing Nintendo Switch. Video games. Loving me some video games. Anyway. Okay. Let's talk about this day in history. I have an interesting one for you. December 6th. Oh my gosh, you know what today is, guys? December 6th. We're going to get the expansion for Disney's Dreamlight Valley, and I'm going to stream live tonight at 6:30 so we can check out the expansion. Yeah. Should be good. We'll get to open some more doors in the castle. I know, I'm silly. Last night I was playing World of Warcraft, and I'm on the Dragon Isles now, and I'm questing on the Dragon Isles, and I'm just dying. I'm dying and dying and dying. I'm like, oh my god, am I really going to be able to play this game? Anyway, I spent more time at the graveyard than I did playing the game. So tune in tonight if you want to see the Disney Dreamlight Valley expansion. They're also coming out with an expansion on my card game, the Hearthstone. And this is a game that I am so obsessed with. So obsessed. Now, I play that on my iPad. It's also a Blizzard game, it's World of Warcraft related. It's characters from World of Warcraft. that are on cards. Similar to Magic the Gathering, it's that kind of game, where the cards have different strengths and abilities, and it's very hard to learn. But once you learn it, you're like, oh, I gotta play. It's really, it requires a lot of thought. Yeah, it's a lot of planning, a lot of, decision making. You make some poor decisions, you're going to lose the game. So, interesting card game. Anyway, so today in this day in history, I'm going to cover murder at the Altamont racetrack, the Altamont Festival. This was a brainchild of the Rolling Stones back in 1969. They were doing their U.S. tour, and they wanted some way to wrap up the tour that would be similar to the Woodstock that had occurred several months earlier in Bethel, New York. So they're like, okay, the only difference, well, big difference, was the planning that went into this festival. They, up until like the day before, 2 days before the festival, they had no idea where they were going to hold this darn thing. It was so poorly organized. They said, it's going to be a free concert. We're going to have Santana, Jefferson Airplane, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, some other bands that I'd never heard of, Frito-Lay, Banjo, I don't know, some other ones. And the Grateful Dead were going to open for the Rolling Stones. So they expected a crowd of about 100,000. Whereas Woodstock had these, it was so well organized. The organizers spent months putting this thing together. This was just kind of thrown together at the last minute. And they thought, 100,000 people will show up. 300,000 people showed up. There was LSD laced with speed going through the crowd. So people were having these bad trips. And the antidote to that back in the day was Thorazine. Well, the medics had run out of Thorazine. So all these people were on these bad trips. They're having these paranoid, episodes, and they're fighting with everybody. And it was, and they had hired the Hells Angels as security in exchange for $500 worth of beer, which in today's market would be probably between $3,000 and $4,000 worth of beer that they could consume that day. Here you go. And the Hells Angels get there. They've got no place to park their motorcycles, so they park next to the stage. And the rumor is that the riot or the fighting started when someone knocked over one of the motorcycles. That's their bread and butter, the motorcycles. You don't touch the motorcycles. So anyway, so that's kind of what started it. So at the point that this starts, this ruckus, this melee starts, Jefferson Airplane is performing. The lead singer, Marty Balin, is on stage, and he sees this going on in the crowd, and he jumps into the crowd to help out. And he's knocked over by a Hell's Angel, and he's knocked unconscious. So one of the band members from Santana goes back to tell the Grateful Dead, hey, look, guess what just happened? And you see what's going on out here. And so Grateful Dead says, okay, we've seen enough. We're leaving. They pack up. They're gone. So meanwhile, everybody's waiting for the Rolling Stones. The helicopter comes, and here comes the Rolling Stones, and they take the stage. And Mick Jagger is singing Under My Thumb when Meredith Hunter is stabbed in the crowd. Now here's what happened. 21-year-old Hell's Angel Alan Pissarro stabbed Meredith Hunter. But we'll back up a little bit. Meredith is a man, a black man. He is there. He's 18 years old. He comes to this concert. His sister had said, I wouldn't go to that if I were you. And he's like, no, I'm going to go. And he takes this lady, Patty, as his date. And during this whole melee with Marty Balin, Jefferson Airplane, Patty says, listen, I want to go. I want to go. So they both go to his Mustang, and he goes to the boot of the Mustang and he pulls out his weapon, a gun. And he says, I'm going to go back in. I want to hear the Rolling Stones. And she's like, I'm not going. I'm staying here in the car. But she ends up going with him and they go back in. So at some point, he climbs up onto a speaker, and one of the Hells Angels guys grabs him by the ear and pulls him off the speaker. And as he's pulling him down, Meredith is pulling out his gun. John Pissarro walks up on his flank and knocks his arm with the gun in it, knocks his arm, knocking the gun from him, and then stabs him twice in the back. And yeah. And then all of a sudden, all these Hells Angels are on top of this poor Meredith guy, just beating the crap out of him. Finally, someone pulls Meredith to safety. They get him over to the medical unit, and they order a helicopter, but he's dead by the time the helicopter gets there. He has died. That weekend, they had 4 total deaths, 3 supposedly accidental, 4 live births, and many, many fractured skulls. Apparently, that was the injury du jour of this concert. Fractured skulls. People were out there with sticks just beating each other up. And Mick Jagger, who was singing Under My Thumb during this stabbing, had no idea any of this was going on. None. You can see him later on in a documentary. The documentary was called Gimme Shelter. When this documentary opens, you can see him watching footage of this occurring, and apparently he just never has never really spoken about any of this. He just doesn't discuss it. They go back to Europe. They don't come back to the U.S. So at least not anytime soon. Then I was like, I wonder what happened to that Hells Angel guy, John Pissarro. He goes on trial for the murder of Meredith Hunter. White Hells Angel, black man, goes on trial for his murder, and he is found not guilty. The jury felt like that John Pissarro, or Alan Pissarro, had brought a knife to a gunfight and was just doing the best he could. It was all self-defense. Not guilty. Then in 1985, Alan Pissarro was found dead, face up, floating in the Anderson Reservoir, which is in Morgan Hill, California. And he had $10,000 in his pocket. So the police called it a suspicious death, but they never figured out what happened to him. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out how old he would have been at that time, because this is in 69. He was 21, 79, 31, 80. So he was in his 40s, maybe? They're late 30s, early 40s. I don't do math. You guys, I do not do math. But anyway, interesting life. Yeah. So that is this day in history. I was happy to bring it to you. And I hope you guys, I'm going to continue working on the cards. Please let me know if you would like one. I will be happy to mail one to you. Christmas cards. And some of your addresses I have, but if you think that I don't have your address, or you just want to give it to me again, please make sure to message me. There's several ways you can get a hold of me. Down in the description, you will see that. You will also see my Christmas and birthday wish list. Yes, because this month is my birthday. I'm not going to tell you how old I am. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I forgot to show you guys when I got dressed this morning. I was outside walking the dogs in my purple pants, red socks, blue shirt, pink jacket. I know. Colors mean nothing to me. I'm not colorblind. I just like a lot of color. I just start grabbing things in the morning and putting it on. And I'm thinking, this will look good on YouTube. Then I forget, just add the other stuff in because nobody's going to see it. But I showed it to you. Why not? All right, guys. Love you all. Hope to see you tonight. If I don't see you tonight, for Disney Dreamlight Valley expansion update, then I will see you tomorrow and Happy New Prime Day. Have a great day, everybody. It's Tuesday. Bye.